Greetings, Commander, and welcome to the Breach. This is episode 12, and today we're going to focus mainly on building some stations. But first thing, I've just hit reputation 20 with one of the Paranid factions, so time to upgrade Thunderchild. I could just send a ship to the Paranid station and then teleport there, but it's useful to ride along in a ship and pick up any useful missions. I pick up the fleet build mission with the reward of a magnetar miner. Fleet build missions are so much faster than building a base, although I'm more than happy to do either one of them for the reward of a mining ship. With the magic of editing, we'll cut down the flight time and having to listen to the Paranid talk to us.
Hello, it's an honor to see you here. It pleases us that
Yes, I am very honoured as well, and yes, I will behave myself.
Honorable behavior.
I've been looking forward to this for quite some time. We can now buy the main guns for the Odyssey Vanguard. This is a major upgrade to the Thunderchild. It'll allow me to go toe-to-toe with the Xenon destroyers. Not only are we giving Thunderchild its main weapon, we're going to upgrade the 3 large turrets as well. Paranid Plasma will give us a huge increase in our damage output. My bank balance is over 100 million credits, so it shows that I've been a little busy since the last episode. I've been mainly building defence platforms and assembling fleets for the major factions. I'm hoping the 120 million will be enough to purchase the blueprints I have left to buy and be able to fund the construction costs of the new stations. The newly installed plasma turrets are going to get modded with the slasher effects, and I'm also going to re-roll some of the flak turrets as well. For the slasher weapon damage mod, you need basic weapon chamber, high energy catalyst and tuning software. This mod will improve the weapon damage between 33 and 50%. It will reduce the cooling on the turret and it will improve its weapon reload speed. But turrets don't have to deal with cooling, so it can be possibly 2 benefits. All just relies on RNG. Well, that's 3 positive rolls for the plasma turrets. I'm happy with that, and I'm not going to gamble my resources to try and get a better roll. I am going to look at the slasher mods on the flak turrets and see if I can get a slightly better roll with 2 benefits. I'll definitely keep that roll. That one will do. The Thunderchild is upgraded and we'll get back to her in a second, but what we're going to do is start assembling the fleet for the mission we just accepted. It's a nice and simple mission. We've just got to buy 1 frigate and 4 fighters and all the hard points need to be filled. This is where my strategy of flooding the markets with as many E-cells as possible pays off. I find the shipyards are generally very well stocked and only missing 1 or 2 products. Because they are generally well stocked, I'm able to do assemble fleet missions back to back very quickly. You don't get any extra money for crewing the ships up, so they come uncrewed. The shipyard is short on some weapon components, which is good to know because I could fill that request myself if I wanted to, or I could wait for the normal traders to fill that gap. At the moment, because I'm not desperate for the money, I'm going to allow the NPC traders to fill that requirement and get on with some other stuff. It didn't take long for the ships to be built at all, as in I haven't even got to my next point of interest, and now I can send these ships into their rendezvous point. As I've just upgraded the Thunderchild, you'll forgive me if I want to see if I can find myself a little trouble. So I'm going to head to Hatikvar's Choice and see if there's any Xenon destroyers. You never know, I might get lucky.
Entering system. Hatikvar's Choice.
Awaiting orders.
We need to perform a transfer.
Awaiting orders.
For completing that mission, we make about 2 million credits. We can sell the 2,500 units of Nevidium for another million credits, give or take. It's an easy way to get veteran captains. We also get a ship that has some mods that we can extract if we want to. The ship is also a great way to make passive income early on, or we can add it into one of our own mining platforms, which is what I'm going to do with this ship. Okay, 1.4 million, I'll take that.
Awaiting orders.
So as I said, we're back in Hatikvar's Choice 1. This seems to be the only place that the Xenon are pushing really hard. Well, that I've found. They might be absolutely murdering the split at the moment, but for as far as I'm concerned, everything's pretty quiet. At one point they'd pushed hard enough to start the construction of a solar power plant, but that was eventually destroyed by the combined might of the Argon Federation and the Terran Protectorate, leaving behind just this build storage. It's time to remove the build storage. As this is the 7.5 beta patch 3, I believe, I've noticed that the bigger the ship, the less the new flight model really affects it, whereas the smaller ships fly a lot differently, which is obviously the reason why they've changed the flight model. The easiest way to describe the new flight model is your main engines make you very fast in a straight line, but your other retros aren't as effective. So you can accelerate very quickly forward, but you take a lot of time to deaccelerate. If you do a tight turn, you'll also drift fairly wide as well. Well, it's nice having the main plasma battery on my ship, but I don't seem to be hitting the storage building in the right place. Maybe I can bring my other plasma turrets online and get them to do the work for me. Well, eventually choosing the correct setting finished that off very quickly. I can't help it. I know it's only energy cells, but I've got to collect all the loot. Although I did wait around for some time hoping a Xenon destroyer would tumble through the gate, none appeared. So let's go and look at the stations instead. This was originally just my power plant in Second Contact 2, and it now has evolved into the silicon refinery. This is where I've been sending my magnetar miners to do their mining. If you saw my mini episode about building your first solar power plant in the Reach, you'll know that that station is overproducing energy cells at the moment. So what I'm going to do is power this station in Second Contact from the power station in the Reach. Removing the solar panels adds the build commodities to the storage, therefore I can add extra silicon refineries for free. The plan is to produce hull parts and claytronics, which are the main components for building a factory, and means I can scale up my output very easily. As I've recorded this footage but not started editing it, I know that I kind of jumped the shark, so to speak, and started throwing in other stations. It's one thing playing the game to enjoy yourself, and another thing playing the game to edit it down to put onto YouTube. When X4 Foundations first came out, I did build the one massive station to produce everything. Yes, there is something awesome about having one single massive station, but there's so many drawbacks that it's not worth building. Though I do recommend that if you've never done one, try and do one. The main drawback of a single station is it takes so long to upgrade it. So if I'm not going to build a single massive station, how am I going to do this? Well, I'm initially going to split it down into 4 stations. I will have 2 stations for raw inputs, split between my solids for silicon and ore, the other one dealing with the liquids, hydrogen, helium and methane. Don't at me about the liquids. The other 2 stations will be one for hull parts and the other for claytronics. But as I've already said, these big stations will have other modules added to them to produce other outputs. All of these factories are going to be rather large and require a large amount of energy cells, so I'm going to build the solar power plants into them. Eventually, I will build a 5th station, and this will be just for producing food as I build accommodation units on the other 4 factories. When I'm ready to start building ships, a 6th factory will be built just for the components for building said ships. The next question is, where am I going to build all these stations? To begin with, let me introduce you to Quantum Anomaly. They have an interactive map that is invaluable to any X4 Foundations player. Thankfully, we're well past the stage where we have to plot our own resources on pen and paper. Here's a map of the whole X4 universe, and it's very easy to see all the connection links that they have between the sectors. We're easily able to zoom in and see individual sectors and the information we're interested in, which is their resources. Here you can see I have Grand Exchange 4 highlighted. It has a sunlight of 129%, so it's going to be great for building a factory. It has an excellent quantity of available ore and a high availability of silicon, so it's going to be amazing to build my ore processing plant there. The website also allows you to sort by resources. Here you can see I've sorted by methane, which gives 18 billion as the 3rd best sector, which is good enough for our initial requirements. So we'll build our liquid extraction facility there. Before we actually start the build process, I'm going to set up 2 trade rules. The first one will be a copy of the default command, but we'll give it a better name, sell to all, so it's easier to recognise. The second trade rule we set up will just be for trading between our own stations. I shall be able to demonstrate how this all works later on once the stations are built. The second trade rule is so important, it's going to allow multiple stations to work as one. The second trade rule I call factory trade only. I restrict all the factions except for my own factories. Welcome to the Grand Exchange 4 solar power plant, which is producing E-cells for the local economy for many cycles. But the time has come to transform it into our ore and silicon refinery. I have slightly sped up the footage of me building this station. What's interesting for me looking back on this now as I'm editing it is this is nothing like my previous designs, which is either going to show me a new way to do things or it's just going to vex me because it's not working how I like it to. As you can see, I'm building the refineries at 90 degrees to the docking ports, so this is eventually going to make my station short but wide, whereas I normally have them narrow but long. As you can see, as I try and place the silicon refinery, I have to put a extra cross-section piece in to give the room for the length of the silicon wafer factory. Once I've made room for the silicon wafer factory, it's very easy to stack them next to each other, which makes this part of the factory very easy to expand. To pack the ore refineries as close together as possible, you need to use two cross-section pieces, but once they're in place you can just use copy sequence to expand. So the first expansion of this station is adding 2 silicon wafer factories and 2 refined metal factories, but I have forgotten something important. Solid storage. I'll come back to that later. It's only been a few seconds, but we've already filled in some of the build orders. I've also hired the construction ship so it starts being built as soon as all the components arrive. We are now in 18 billion and preparing to build the gas refinery. Choosing the initial plot size, we're having it quite wide and long for plenty of expansion, but we're cutting down on the height of the plot to save some money. We can easily expand the plot size when we have the need and the money to. As you can see, I'm just dragging the plot around to see where it's cheapest to build the station. The closer you are to a gate, the more expensive the plot becomes. The initial cost of the plot is 600,000, but in this place it will also be cheaper to expand it when we need to. As this is a completely new build, we're going to sort out the solar power plant first. As you're all aware, everything is built in order that it's laid down in the plan. So we go E-type dock, cross-section, container storage, and then 2 solar panels. So the other factories will have energy cells ready to go as soon as they're built. I rotate the first solar panel round to fit onto the cross-section and then copy the first solar panel to put onto the other side. That's the power plant section completed. Next we're going to design the station so it's easy to daisy chain modules together to upgrade at a later date. This station is going to be making antimatter cells, graphene and superfluid coolant. The way I end up designing this station will allow it to be long and narrow, the way I normally end up building my stations. What I'm going to do here is place one each of the production modules, then add extra storage modules. With it just being a bare bones station, it means I can get the construction started as quickly as possible. As you can see from this perspective, I'll easily be able to expand the station by just daisy chaining the modules to the right. During the editing process, I did check that I'd added liquid storage, not solid, because that would have been very embarrassing and would have probably been edited out. Oh, now you don't know if I edited it out or not. Damn. I did not edit it out because I normally let you see my mistakes. It's a very basic station, but it will get the job done. Those buy orders filled up very quickly, which is good to see. We have the solids and liquid stations being built, so now we need to buy the ships to supply them with raw resources. So I'm at the Paranage shipyard and I'm going to buy 2 gas miners and 2 solid miners. This will get the process started and I can add to them as and when I need to. I'm not removing miners from my silicon refinery in Second Contact because that's allowing me to make some passive income at the moment. 15.7 million credits. That's a fair chunk of change right there.
Requesting permission to dock. Docking permission granted.
And now I'm going to spend a lot of money on a solid miner. Well, that's a little cheaper, it's only 8.8 million. Well, here I am showing you me correcting an omission. I'm going to add some solid storage to my refinery station. As soon as that storage container is built, the factory will come online. And now we're going to move on to our next station, the Hull Parts Factory. I'm going to place this station in Grand Exchange 4 because of the slightly higher solar intensity, which is the same reason why I'll be building my claytronics factory in here as well. Even with a solid passive income, my finances have taken quite a hit, so I'm going to have to do some more missions in the background to earn some serious cash. The plot itself cost me 400,000, so that's not too bad. I've done my usual trick of not increasing the height to save some money. As per usual, I'm going to set up an E-type dock, some storage and some solar panels. And there it is, folks. I told you I showed my mistakes. I've put in solid storage instead of container. I have most of the station planned out before I spot my mistake, which is better than confirming your build plans and only then finding your error. We'll glide through this part of the build process at 400% speed. Only now do I realise my mistake. Yeah, I deleted everything that I'd laid out because of the build order. It's not ultra efficient now, but it'll do. But seeing as I've laid everything out once already, the second time should be quite quick. Even setting the buy price down to 50%, it's still going to cost me over 9 million to purchase all the components for this factory. It will probably take longer to source all the components as well, because I've got advanced composites and plasma conductors in the build order now. But that's not a big problem, because I need both the oil refinery and the gas refinery to be online before this factory can even start producing anything. And now it's the claytronics factory, the final of the stations we're planning on building today. The plot cost 400,000 credits as expected. I managed to build the whole station without any mistakes. The claytronics factories themselves take a lot of components, so they're very expensive to build. So much so that I don't actually have enough money to fully fund this build project. As you can see, this station with 2 claytronics factories is going to cost me 20 million credits to build. We'll put about 10 million in there to start the build process. Now we've got the 4 main factories built, we need to tweak 2 of them. Claytronics take a wide variety of resources to build. Some we're already producing, like antimatter cells and energy cells, but we also need to produce microchips and quantum tubes. We're going to add the microchips to the solids refinery because it only takes silicon wafers and energy cells. Well, I've added it to the factory, not that I can afford to fund the build process. To the gas refinery, I'm going to add some quantum tube production. With these factories added to the station, we can now start producing claytronics, which will make expanding these stations so much easier. But as before, I don't have the cash to start buying the extra components I need to build these quantum tube factories. But dealing with all that will be for a future episode. I'm happy with what we've managed to achieve this episode. We've got the 4 factories laid down. And now the secret magic ingredient is time. Time to source the products and get the construction ships to actually build the factories. I plan on using this time to run some missions and build some more cash reserves. Because of the length of time it takes me to edit these episodes, it might be 2 weeks before you get the next one. So I hope to see you then. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'll see you on the other side.